Hi, welcome to my channel. All right, so hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Welcome to Talkinsen. My name is Ogechi, and in my channel, I talk sense into religious, social, and life issues, and talking sense in that I try to bring out the issues that are happening and then try to find out what lessons we can learn from those issues. So, this topic of today is no different from other topics I've done. Please check out my channel. We've got a topic I did on um, current situation of an affair again, an affair between Chidinma Ojukwu and Yusifo, who Yusifo is actually in my thumbnail and his wife is below. So the lady that you see next to the man with the bear, the white bear, is Yusifo's wife, and she's actually a top executive wherever of a very high commissioning body in Nigeria. And then we've also got Matt Hancock, who was the Home Secretary in England and was caught cheating, to say. So the two cases, I mean, they're not the only cases that have come out really, but I think because of the consequences that these ones had made me want to talk about them. Um, and equally to look at the people that suffer the most, because it's one thing that we are only seeing the face of the men that were brought up in this situation, but we also need to understand that behind these men, our family, behind them, our wives, who are actually the ones in the picture with them in the thumbnail, and equally there are children involved in all these situations. So it's good to like look at the whole package altogether. So, and I wanted to focus on the effect of or the legacy that extramarital affair or someone being cheating on his or her spouse has on the rest of the family. And I choose not to focus on the person that is really cheated upon, because honestly all the family members are cheated upon, but if I'm looking at from someone that is cheated upon, we'll be focusing like the wives. But in this situation we need to remember that also everyone is involved in this situation. So whilst Matt Hancock, in his briefing or in his talk whilst addressing the issue and um, of the affair, said that he prefers to handle this privately. I think the key thing I want to make it obvious that I mentioned it in one of my videos where I says, please do not keep your virginity for anyone. Um, I'll put the link. I'll remember to put the link below. I mentioned that when it comes to sexual issues like this, there is nothing that is hidden under the sun, because though it's practiced in private, its consequences are known in public. So even it doesn't, I mean, consequence doesn't necessarily mean that the person, let's say for example, where a man is cheating with a woman, it doesn't mean that the person have to get pregnant, but the consequences are actually very obvious, whether in public setting, in situations like Lucifo and Matt Hancock, or simply in public in terms of their immediate surrounding. So the effects are lasting, actually they are lasting, and people do not forget easily. So that's the truth about the situation here. So let's then just go about speaking of one of the key things I wanted to speak about here. So if you don't know who Yusifo is, and why I'm actually including him here, he's a CEO of a super TV, which is a very big organization in Nigeria, and he was killed by the person that he was having an affair with. Well, it wasn't even an affair. It was more or less like, I don't know what to call it. It was just, he was cheating on his wife, and the person that he was cheating on was the one that killed him. And then in Matt Hancock's situation, the person he's cheating with is actually his own advisor. So basically, both of them are um, in public affair, to be honest, our government affair, which makes it then our business, to be honest. So whilst he wants to deal with it privately, it is important to delve in how this affects not just, I'm not talking about my uncle here, because obviously I don't know the man, but just using both of their situations to explore how this affects the rest of the family. So I hope that gives a good introduction as to why I'm speaking about this issue. I hope not to take a lot of time in this live stream. So let's talk about cheating. So when it comes to cheating or people having extramarital affair outside of marriage, of their marriage, the people that it affects the most or the people that bears the brunt of it all are the children. And most especially in the cases where the situation is known publicly or the child knows the reason why the parents are not getting along, or in the cases where the affair leads to breakdown in marriage. So there are a lot of things that we need to consider. But one of the reasons why I wanted to speak about this is that sometimes the voices of those children are not actually heard in public. And I must commend Harry and what's that, Williams, who are the children of Princess Diana, on when they came out to speak about like the issues that they experienced, the mental health issues that they experienced after the whole saga and then their mother's death. So, and you can still hear how those, I guess, the affair that the father was having affected them all. So, even as adult children, it still affects. The case is whether the impact it has, the level of impacts that is what need to be considered. So, I think I'm only speaking on public cases because these ones are known widely. So, we just see them as examples for now. So let's talk about then what are the effects that it has on children. So when a family member or a wife or husband goes outside of marriage to have an affair with another person outside of the marriage and it becomes discovered, one of the things that affects the child, if the child is knows what has happened, especially if they're more of older children or teenagers, one of the things that comes into their mind is that they start doubting themselves. So it's not just the person that is cheated upon, like the wife or the husband, that actually feels the effect, that feels the hurt. The children are the ones that bears the legacy of that, because first of all there are emotional issues that comes in. One is that of hurt, anxiety, lack of trust, and equally low self-esteem can come out of that as a result of discovering that your parents or one of your parents is actually going outside of the marriage to have relationship, to say, though we know that many people have different reasons why they cheat. I mean, media has shown us, research has shown us the different reasons why people step out of their marriage to do what they do. Whilst that doesn't excuse their actions, it is important to consider whatever that led them to do what they had to do. So, or not had to do, what they wanted to do. But we need to equally understand that most of the time when they're doing these things, it's actually out of selfishness, because basically, in most cases, they are reasoning about themselves and their needs, but not considering the needs of the family in a wider perspective. So there is a strong element of selfishness that comes within extramarital affair. So the hurt and anger that is felt by the partner is equally felt by the child, but in a different level, where the child may kind of internalize the issues, not necessarily speak out, but the child will internalize it, whether they observe it, they hear it, or know about it. They often internalize the issue, and um, with time, it starts showing in their behavior. It could come out in the space of depression. It could be that they become more angry if they were, even or start becoming showing aggressive behavior, or anger towards certain things that would not make sense to an ordinary person. So that's one of the things that comes out. And then sometimes for them, they start blaming themselves. Self-blame is actually some of the things that the children within these situations experience, and that self-blame is wondering if they are the cause. There something that they could have done to make it different. Um, Also, self-doubt, and equally just over becoming overprotective. I mean, due to the lack of trust, they tend to try and protect the person that they feel that has been hurt, um, be it the mother or the father, whoever that is the one that is being cheated on. They tend to move to try and protect that person. Now, the interesting part of it is, as let's say, for example, if this happened when the person is young, the interesting part of this is that as you grow older, those internalized anger, whether you express them or do not express them in in a healthy way, it becomes more profound in the behavior and the choices you make in a later life. And a great example of those choices would be the relationships that you choose to get into. And these relationships are not just relationship based on intimate relationship. We are looking at relationship that is also um, based in friendship, um, acquaintance, um, work life, um, general social life situations, the social relationships that you have, the personal relationships that you have, and most importantly, the relationship which you have with yourself. Very often, I've had many people who, for example, their parents went, let's say, for example, if the guy in this situation was the one that had the affair and left the mother, or that affair leads to divorce. And in the cases where the mother may have depended on the father to be the breadwinner of the family, in most cases, I see, and as the people themselves say, um, and no, is that people tend to be the one to want to correct the wrong. So for them, they feel like it's almost like a quest, not just to correct the wrong that they feel that let's say in this example, the father has done, but just to try and prove to themselves that they can do better than whatever situation that happened between the two parents. And that could be, if it's a case of financial situations, it could be that they work extra hard to ensure that they do not depend on another man to feed them or to be the breadwinner, and they tend to take up that breadwinner position. So wherever they felt that there was a weakness, or the sense that perhaps their mother, well, there was a weakness within the mother's perspective, if the mother is the one that is cheated upon, or in the case if the father is the one cheated upon, they often try to adopt the opposite traits of what they perceive to be a weakness to the parents, just to show that they can do better than what their parents has done. And if I could say anything here, is that we must remember we cannot do better than our parents because we are not them. So people cannot do better than their parents, regardless of the situation. So in the situations like that, it's important to, whilst you are internalizing that issue that has happened and whatever reasons that you have, it's important to realize that you are an individual and you have your own path to live. So holding on to those internalized anger, hurt, trauma, because having cheating to say is traumatic for everyone involved in this situation. Traumatic for the person that even cheated and got found out. It's traumatic for the spouse. It's traumatic for husband and wife in this situation. It's traumatic for the spouse. It's traumatic for the children, because at this point everyone is trying to like grasp w- the knowledge of what happened. Why did it take place? Could I have done something wrong? Was there something I missed? Was there a sign that I missed? Did that? It's just like a lot of questions that comes with self-doubt and, like, I guess, confusion, and just feeling like you've been gaslighted upon, and obviously leading all to the lack of trust. And if care is not taken, that could lead to the breakdown of marriage. But in other situations, where the parents are able to work through their situation, it actually leave a better impression on the child to know that they can actually overcome issues like that within their own relationship when they grow older. And I'm speaking here if the child is of a younger age. So when we look at them for adult children, we equally need to understand that some of these things that they have internalized from what has happened in that relationship um, becomes something that they often watch out for in other relationships that they get into. So that could be a simple example of, I don't know, someone coming back late. If your dad used to come back late all the time, and then now your partner is coming back late, and your dad is the one that cheated, and now your partner is coming back late, what happens in this situation is that you as a person then start having paranoid thoughts about what could be happening, um, projecting your fears and your own hurt onto the partner. And these are the things that happen in relationship with friendship. The same thing happens where you could start projecting your own hurt onto those people because based on your own experience, you have seen the patterns. And before you know it, you have become so sensitive that you forget that these people are different individuals. Now, I say that because like I was listening to one marriage counseling or marriage search session that a couple were delivering. What in this situation, the female or the wife came from a broken home, whilst the husband came from a non-broken home, and she herself mentioned that these were her issues because she has not had the um, training to learn to grow up in both with both parents because the parents divorced quite young. But for her, it was a case of learning to take instruction and not doing things just as you want to do it. So it was a case of relearning all the things that she has done so independently on her own to understand that it's now a partnership thing. So for her, it was a case of learning, and there were other things that were shared in that seminar. But it was interesting to just hear from her perspective how that happened for her and how she had to learn from it. So then in going the talking more about the legacy, one of the ways to help the child, whether the adult child or the younger child, this is the cases if the child is actually aware of what has happened. But in most cases, we always say like people have intuitions and they often find out what has happened. But in cases like this, how do you then help that child to process and heal? Because remember, healing is not something that happens all of a sudden. Forgiveness doesn't happen all of a sudden. All these things are time and it takes processing, a lot of mental processing, spiritual processing, or spiritual healing, and equally kind of a state of mind that the person is ready to let go. Okay, so how do you help these people if you have a child that this is has affected or has is going through this issue or is going through this issue, sorry, it would be good, obviously, to always go to therapy, seek for counseling, or any psychological support would be very good. Another thing the child could do would be to write down and journal his or her thoughts on what has happened to help the person process it. Okay. Another thing I find, this is where I've actually start having issues with the parents, is that you try to lie to the child about what has happened. That is not a helpful strategy. You cannot lie to a child on what has happened in your relationship. Okay. Um, First of all, before I continue, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel if you like the content that you're hearing so far. So you cannot lie to the child on what has happened in your relationship. Rather, the best advice would be for you to um, put this story or put this situation in a way that the child is able to understand, depending on the age. My other advice would be to go to to write that, you yourself as a parent, I think both of you, both the cheater and the person cheated upon. But if it's both of you cheating on each other, then I can't. In that situation, you really have to explain yourself to the children. But then again, my thing would be that you write down what has happened so that the child can read on it and internalize it in their own time. Another thing would be to um, talk to someone. If you're not the person that can talk to your child, find someone else that can talk to the child. It's not everyone that the child can speak to children in a way that they understand. But if you know that person that can speak to the child to understand, like you're confident, someone that you trust, that if you tell this information to help relate it to your child, if you find it difficult speaking to the child about it, then get the person to speak to the child in a way that the child understands based on their age. But one of the key things I would say is do not lie about the situation, but perhaps do not give too much details, because giving too much details is equally disrespectful to the cheater, but equally mentally damaging to the child. Because one of the things we find that for parents who may not have been able to manage their own emotions very well is that the child now becomes their own parent. So the child is now become a child parent, where the child is the one comforting comfort comforting the parent, which is not good because the burden then lies on that child. So it's important that the person or the parent in this situation be able to know how to deliver such sensitive message to the child in a way that still allows the person to know what is going on, but equally to not hold on to it too long or internalize it in a very negative way. Another thing I'll advise would be for parents to, or at least another thing advice actually, it's not my advice, some of the things I've also read, is to not put the let's say if it's the father, do not put the father against the child, because what you're doing is equally not recognizing the emotional need for that child to have an attachment and relationship with their father, especially in the cases where that father wants to still be involved. So please do not put yourself in a positive light to be like, I'm the angel and then your dad is the demon. That just doesn't help. Okay. So it doesn't help because at the end of the day, it just almost becomes like a cat fight. And this again leads even more to anxiety and instability for the child. Um, Another thing is to continue allowing the person to express their emotion, the child, whether through a younger child or an adult child or a grown-up child, um, to express their emotions, to let them tell you what they have experienced. Okay, let them tell you what their emotions has been going through it all, because in most cases the children do not actually speak because they are often more concerned about the parents. And it's a certain situation, maybe their mind at the time has not even really grasped what is going on. And it's later on down in the years, maybe in their 40s, 50s, 30s, you name it, that it's almost like everything makes start making sense. They start piecing things together. And because it's this kind of situation in itself is traumatic in a sense, it's just a case of then having to try to, well, I say rewire, maybe not, that's not the best word to use, but trying to reconnect and just understand what has happened and comforting the soul and the self again. So do not allow them to suppress the anger more than they should be. That's why I advise to seek for therapy. You never know, at least it's good to talk about it once. Whether the therapy helps or not becomes a different question to say. Um, Another thing is sometimes I think it's best to wait till they have a good understanding of what how to take messages like that. Um, it's really important to wait, because me sharing a lot of information can even only traumatize the child again. So sometimes it's good to wait till they are old enough to be able to understand those information. And that means you don't have to share, but just give it just a general overview of what happened. Okay. Um, as I mentioned, do not be selfish about it, and try and stay positive where you can. If you are not feeling that positive, because sometimes this thing can lead to anger of the parents, which then lead to a lot of child abuse situations. And that's why I've tried to be quite sensitive with this topic, because the effect on the person that has been cheated upon is even greater as well. Actually, it's not necessarily greater than the child, but it's just that because that is the first person that feels the impact, i- the person can actually take out what they are feeling against their children, because remember, the child still acts as a reminder of what has happened. I mean, a reminder of the parent that cheated, or a reminder of the whatever was negative for you. Um, so, in a sense, if you understand your own emotions and how to regulate it, then you'll be able to guide the child a little bit better and help the child to overcome also the situation. And when these things are done right, actually, you can see the child and the parent become best friends. And if it leads to divorce, or in this their consequence, like death, um, it really leads to the it does require for the child and the parent to really bond and heal together. So, in concluding, I think it's just important to understand that I think, one of the key things I wanted to highlight here is that the consequences of adult action affects the children. So, my thing is that a child should not bear the consequence of their parents' action. Okay, but then again, due to the nature of the situation, they have to um work it out together. But we also need to remember that the child did not bring him or herself into the world, it's the parents that did. So the onus always lies on the parents to try and support the child in the best way they can, equally seeking support for themselves. So that's my I guess talking sense of it, or the sense I want to speak into this issue. Um, just to remember that affairs have legal lasting consequence on the child and anyone else involved, including the extended family. Because in situations like my Hancock and now you see for, because they are so public, the shame is not just felt. Again, that's a shame, is another thing that is felt by everyone, but it's not just felt by the immediate family; it's felt by the extended family as well, who now have to try and find a way to put things right. So the thing I think to conclude is that affair, although you may think it's just me or the man or the woman just having the affair, um, you are not cheating on just your wife. You're actually cheating, or your husband. You are cheating on the whole family, and you're cheating on the whole, yeah, the whole family, but we're both extended and immediate family. Well, whilst everyone could understand your needs, but the consequence is beared by everyone. And a situation like Yusifo, is the wife and the children that are burying him, not the side chick, not the person that they had affair with. Okay, so that's my 2 cents about it. On that note, if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, thanks for listening. And you, one viewer, you have a good star. Thank you. Take care. Bye.